right. So, kicking off our town hall, I will pass it along to Ofer.
All right. I don't know what to say. It's my first town hall. Welcome everybody to the town hall. It's a new concept for me, but I guess it's been around for a few hundred of years. Now, the background is our Thai house. We're using it as a tea house, and yeah, things are emerging. Things are getting done here. Behind me is Mikkel. We'll be talking soon. And I'll just walk around and you guys can enjoy. Actually, we'll get to the restaurant again where there is more of a view. But this area where I'm walking here is, as I said, the Thai house and the tea house. And we have down here the sauna and ice bath and massage room that we're now renovating. And
I like where that is in our priorities.
Yeah, no, I'm going to. I'm living here to improve my life, right? Not to go backwards. So yes, this is very important. And we have our spirit house and the river. Yep. Yeah, so things are moving along, and we have a small community already living here. We have Janiska and Mikkel and his family, and I'm here every day and starting now renovating a house that I'll move in hopefully in a couple of months. What else can I say? An interesting project on all aspects.
I guess we can talk a little bit about how many hectares the whole area is.
Sure. It's 16 rai. That's the land unit in Thailand. It's a little over 2.5 hectares. Most of it is undeveloped. So if you see here, we have the river running through it, and yeah, most of the land is like this. Some areas are flat, some are steep, and lots of nature. And we have total of 15 structures. Out of them, 11 of them are houses where people can stay, live, and the other 4 are communal spaces. So we have a communal kitchen / restaurant. We have the tea house where I started the call from, and the sauna and the ice bath and massage room.
And you guys have hosted a couple things on site now since moving in?
Oh yeah. We had 3 days of workshops back to back in the beginning of June, and then another day of workshop just 2 days ago. Well, actually, that was well, they're all interesting, but that was storytelling. So it was a nice experience in the tea house where anybody who wanted could get up, sit in the storytelling seat, and share a story. Could be any story, real, fiction, with a purpose, without a purpose, entertaining, and people shared really interesting stuff. It was really nice.
Cool. And Mikhail, are you in another spot to show anyone who's recently joined a different viewscape? Or are you wandering around with Ofer?
Wandering around with Ofer.
Wandering around with Ofer. So you can see the back of Ofer's head if we wanted to. Cool. And so do we have like a timeline for some big event or something that we're gearing towards as far as like the physical premise, or you're just trying to get through the necessary maintenance and construction first?
Well, yeah, there are lots of things we want to do here, both events-wise. I would like to have my wedding here a year from now. So there's a lot of preparations that I hope we'll be doing for that to make the space ready for that kind of events. And also lots of renovations and improvements, and this path that I'm walking now in nature that was built just a week ago. Yeah.
And how did that deal with the resort and the land end up coming to pass? Because there was scouting, there were potential places. How did you land on Hidden Valley?
Facebook. So
Facebook, of course. This is
Facebook,
Thailand.
yes. Yeah. So I was looking for land for a long time, and nothing really fit. Nothing really was a good start. And yeah, then just at the right time, it was on Facebook. I saw this ad. They were managing this place. They wanted to take a break, and yeah, it was the right place at the right time. Ready with cash. So that's it.
And what do you think makes it suitable? So obviously it's nice that you have this nice central structure that can be like a bit of a clubhouse, third space for the community. There's a pool, there's space to add that sauna ice bath room. There's already existing structures, some of which were move-in ready, which is obviously great, but was there more to it that just felt like, okay, this is the opportunity that we hit go for testing out Amagi Village?
Yeah, so for me, it's a mix of things. I wanted something to be at the scale small enough so that we can make mistakes. I wanted it to be ready enough so we can move in quickly. And this place was rented, fully just a day before I bought it. And I wanted a place with a lot of nature and a lot of potential to grow and use our imagination, and to involve a community of people that will join and want to co-design. So yeah, it's a mix of things.
Awesome. And for anyone who's joined more recently, yes, I was just going to ask if we could just have that gorgeous view again.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. It's not so bad.
And has Dora already chosen a site, or Mikhail already chosen a site for where the farm is going to go?
We have an idea on the initial place, maybe not the full farm, but definitely a place to get going with. And actually need to sync with Dora on this. When she visited here, we got very quickly on sync and what to do, and we just need to start digging and planting, and it'll be really nice.
And
I'd love to hear more on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Dora,
we've got a whole bunch of seeds on the way, but because right now I think, as Ofer was saying, right, like we're slowly going through the design process, but then also wanting to kind of it's always a balance between do we fully plan everything? Do we start? So right now what we've started doing is we're ordering seeds for a whole bunch of different things. So annuals, as well as long-lived, short-lived plants. So all of those are kind of in the process, but then we're going to start growing kind of shorter-lived plants first, just to kind of increase the foliage in the area so that it's easier when you want to grow more stuff at a later stage. So yeah, slowly planning so that we can also move around a little bit more at a later stage.
Cool. Yeah, get to know the land. And Mikhail, you got your pond.
I did get my pond. This is a reference to on the podcast interview that I had with Lily. I was saying that I've wanted to live in a place for over 20 years actually, and I was always like, it needs to have a pond, and like my wife would always laugh about this, and I was like, no, the pond is the best place. It's essential because you can do so much around it, and it's the startup pond. It doesn't fully fulfill all my pond desires, but it's a great start, and I do want to engage with it
Yeah.
and do some of the things that I've been dreaming of.
Awesome. So for any of you who have just recently joined us, we've just been getting the walking tour of Hidden Valley, Amagi's first site with Ofer and Mikhail. And we shall continue along, I think, with our agenda. So we'll have Gear up next to sort of give more high-level project updates, and then we'll pass the torch on to Dora. I think you did maybe want to make a couple of comments, but we have Amy, right, who recently hosted a whole. Sorry, we'll have Mikhail go over the white paper first, and then Amy hosted an interesting workshop. So I think we have some slides and insights to share from there. But then we also really want to make time for the Q&A. So some of you already sent me your questions ahead of time. Please feel free to ping those over to me, and I will bring them up as we go. But also, you know, once we get into the Q&A zone, we can just hand raise and chatter away there. And yeah, we are recording. So I will hand it off to Gear. Shall I share my screen, Gear, so I can pull up those slides for you?
We can do slides, but it's not super important, I guess. We'll go through this quite quick, spending most of the time on Q&A. I'm Gear, Vince Wall. Been floating around in Southeast Asia for 20 years, for the people that don't know me well. And what started this process, for me at least, was we were hosting a conference event the last 5 years down in Koh Phangan. I don't know if everybody's familiar with conference events, but it's a little bit more curated, very similar to the pop-up villages that we see around the world now, like Edge, and yeah, there's a lot of activities going on in that field. After a few of these conferences, we started to talk a lot about we need our village, or we need our church, and a few things happened last year that triggered a conversation with me and Ofer. Both me, Lily, Dora, and Ofer all met through the conference, more or less. Ofer was already doing real estate development and was looking into doing a ecstatic dance village. And then we came together, and this became Amagi, the vision about Amagi, which is more or less finding a place to secure land on an island that is getting developed very fast for our community, and to expand that community. I guess most of you have read what's on our webpage and what's in our Telegram, or hopefully also X. So I'm not going to go too much into details. We can do questions afterwards if you want to more about the vision. From then, we started fundraising end of last year, and then we closed our first investment in Q1 with very known figure, Balaji, that came in first on the cap table. Our deal with the Hidden Valley got closed in Q2, which made it possible to kind of start to prototype and test out how to live together. I think the reason a lot of these communities fail is maybe being a little bit too optimistic about conflict resolution and how to live together. I think we are lucky to have so many communities out there that we can learn from, and that we can hopefully also take some of their functional ideas from, and at the same time use a lot of the new technology that's coming now in terms of tooling, AI helping us with synthesizing data and information, and yeah, God knows what's coming around the corner. So at the moment, Amagi Life, as we call it, works as a platform. We're developing a financial model that Mikkel will talk about more. We are hopefully also expanding our online community. We want to do much more activities online in terms of workshops and events. We just started kind of rolling that out properly, I would say, this week. We've been like twinkling around for a while and testing things. Lily has done the first raw season of a podcast that we now have repurposed and polished a little bit and starting to redistribute. We're getting actually a lot of good feedback from the podcast because it brings other community leaders to us. And instead of us traveling around the world to visit all the villages, we actually get a lot of the villages reaching out to us. So that's amazing. So thank you for that, Lily. Just got very active on X the last week. So if you're active on X, please follow us there. What else is going on? Yeah, so as you see, we are starting to get our first settlers in. So we're starting to look for villagers. Not all of the houses so far are ready for maybe long-term living. But we're interested in, of course, knowing people that want to join and want to commit into coming in and help shaping and co-designing as well. Our hope is to kind of, over setting a milestone to make it livable for maybe 40 people. I don't have the number. We don't operate at the moment with like very strict roadmaps because that's usually how we disappoint people. But we have very clear vision about what we need to do to organically kind of cultivate both the community, do sustainable development, but also make this to a place that you want to live, meaning that we get the right vibe. So part of that is also not to take money from the wrong people, meaning that's usually the biggest challenge when you do these kind of communities. We're growing this slowly. We are still fundraising. We're fundraising looking mostly at the investors that are pro sustainable development or have an understanding of the space we're living in with Web3 and a lot of weirdos that wants to live together. A lot of the interest we get is, of course, from the same kind of ecosystem as other free cities movement, the network state, and startup societies. And we don't necessarily set a clear ideology around what we're doing, but as we see ourselves as a venture builder village, we're definitely looking for people that will help us build. If that's tech or if that's a farm, that's up to the person, but we are a builder village. I think let's get Mikkel to talk a little bit more about the experiments and the visions we have around also the financing and the white paper and all. But any questions, Lily?
I guess it would be good to know sort of in terms, what are we looking for? What is as we're speaking to the community and we want them to help us out, by liking all of our posts on X and LinkedIn and Instagram, if that's what you prefer. So besides that, what do we need help from the community for? What's
Yeah,
like, who are aligned investors? What are we looking for the project at this stage?
Yeah, at this stage, we're looking for people. So I think the people that naturally attract us is the people that have some experience with living remote and working remote, and maybe felt need to connect with a more serendipity kind of. It's like the urban environment, but in a jungle. We get a lot of interest from also families and couples that want to settle down but still want that kind of the nomadic life. And we see a lot of people that want to just escape the city, but still have access to kind of a work environment that are good for your easy to work in. So it's people. It's always people. That's the most important part first, and then the money. so we're still focusing on people, but people that are actively participating, either in terms of coming and building with us or helping spreading the message to the right people, of course, online. If people wants to, if there's people out there that also see that, hey, I think we can do better content online, please reach out, and we will happily bring you into the community to help generate content.
Cool. I think we may have, okay, I was going to say, I thought we lost Mikhail, but there he is. Fantastic. Thanks, Gear. So I guess we want to bring people in, and people need to know what it means to be brought into the project. So we published a white paper. Maybe some of you have read it in full already and come with your list of questions. But just, for anyone who still needs to get an overview, passing the baton on to Mikhail.
Cool. So, a little bit about me. So I'm Mikhail. Originally American, but I've been out of the country for 15 years, living in various places around the world. And I have a background in systems, putting together systems, modeling systems, understanding how systems evolve. And I've done a lot of work in all the various sort of basic civilizational infrastructure systems that we have. So energy, water, food, medicine. And the thing I'm contributing right now is housing, and specifically financing around the housing. And so I have a lot of connections to various parts of the financial system. And about 10 years ago, I had this realization that it's not my realization. I have to admit it's not my realization. It's what researchers have been talking about for a long time, that the way that we do real estate is one of the primary drivers of wealth inequality in the world. And it's one of the primary drivers of people that are just struggling to get by day to day versus those that have enough for at least retirement when that time comes. And it's really strange when you think about it, because the rent often is more than the mortgage payment. That's how it's supposed to be, actually. Before all the housing bubbles came up around the world, the rent's more than the mortgage payment. So it's not that people are too poor to be able to afford to live in places. It's literally just the ownership structure is the driver of this. If you look at the actual money flows and the wealth flows, then everything is all there. And so about 10 years ago, I was living in New Zealand, which was going gangbusters in the fastest appreciation of any place in the world at the time. And all my friends, professional friends making very well-paying jobs, they were not able to purchase homes themselves. They weren't able to save up the down payments unless they went in with friends and things like that. And so I was inspired to see if I could create a different sort of model. And what I thought of back then is kind of the seed of now what we are experimenting with in Amagi. So I'm going to go over the very basic high-level architecture of the concepts that we're doing. And I'll give a disclaimer. And that disclaimer is we're the primary purpose of the model and the white paper, the 70-page white paper that I made assisted by ChatGPT, is to see if people are resonating on a soul level, meaning that they're resonating with the morals that are communicated in the white paper and the intentions that we have, and that they're resonating with the form of ownership. When it comes to specific details, we are listening and getting feedback from people. And because of my understanding and connections within the finance system, I know how to kind of tweak little things here and there and get outcomes that will work for the community that we're building while still maintaining the essence of the white paper. So with that disclaimer in mind, let me go through the bullet points. Which, as I was saying, the traditional real estate model is broken because you're either renting and you have no security, you can get kicked out when your lease ends, or increasingly on Koh Phangan, even before your lease ends, they're just ripping up and kicking people out right now. And you're not able to build your wealth, which for the majority of people in the developed countries, everyone other than the top 5%, their home ownership is makes up about 85% of their net worth. If they're lucky enough to have a home. So you're either stuck in that, or you take the risk and you buy a house and you save up and you put in all the effort of all these years of building up what you can from your wages, and then you buy a home and you hope that the inspector didn't miss that the foundation was broken or that your home was leaky or things like that, and hope that the housing market doesn't crash. And if you ever want to move or do things like that, depending on what's going on with the overall market, it can be very difficult. So it's not really working for anyone. And our model, the model that I've been developing, attempts to be the best of both worlds. It gives you the flexibility and ease of renting, but you still have security in knowing exactly what your rent's going to be and knowing that you have a place that you can stay. And you're able to build wealth, regardless of who you are, regardless of how much money that you have. Even if you only have a small amount that you can invest, you don't need to save up for a whole down payment, you can still build wealth. And the way that it works is we hold all the village assets into a commons. And so instead of buying individual properties, you're buying equity into the whole, the village as a whole, and you're buying equity. And then by having that equity, it reduces the rent for when you're living here. So that way it still simulates the exact, you're buying a house and then you don't have to pay rent. Instead, you just buy equity and that reduces the rent that you have to pay. But there's also a key difference here as well. And that is that the commons value, the thing that the village is holding that you're investing into, is not just the real estate itself. It's not just the home or the homes. It's also village businesses. And these can be physical village businesses like a restaurant or a school or a spa, but also some of these innovation sort of businesses that Gear was alluding to. And really what our vision is that the entire village as a whole is really a perfect startup test bed for regenerative living and regenerative innovation. And so by investing and living here, you're actually contributing to that value creation of everything that is going on in the village. And so it only makes sense that you also get some of the value out of that. And so that's where that commons value comes from, being everything. And this is very important because right now, everybody is putting their money into real estate because that's the place that has the most predictable returns, and they can say this is what I need. But actually, there's too much capital that's going to real estate. More capital needs to be going into supporting innovation, particularly regenerative innovation, particularly ways of living better with the earth and better with each other. And when it's done well, which we believe that we can do because we have this really solid test bed, then the returns on that are actually far greater than just investing into real estate. And so with this model, you're not only getting more flexibility and ease when you're actually living here by buying into the equity, but you're also getting better returns over time because you're participating in the creation, the value creation, first in this particular location, but also into hopefully eventually many Amagis or many of our partner networks around the world. So that's the basic gist. I have a bunch of details of the first pass in the white paper. We already have gotten some feedback and already decided to make a few tweaks to that. And I need to update the white paper pretty soon, but I'm holding off on that until we get a little bit more clarity. But what I would say is that the gist of what I'm describing is not speculative. The gist of what I'm describing has been very successful. It was the model that was used after World War II, particularly in the Nordic countries and Germany. There's a few other countries as well, where they rapidly built housing under these cooperative models, where a bunch of people would come together. They were supported by the government. They got low interest loans. They often got land grants, and then they would build urban housing. And instead of owning a unit directly, you own equity. And this is how I read that in Oslo, like 40% of all people live in buildings or units that were built under this model originally. So that part, the main essence of what we're doing has been proven to work. The only downsides of those models were that everything was built around the particular building. So if you bought into one building, it was very hard for you, you couldn't just transfer your equity to another building. And there wasn't the innovation factor and things like that. So the way that we're looking at it, and I've talked to other people that have had very similar ideas that grew up in Germany or grew up in Nordic countries, and they also are like, yes, this model is amazing, is to modernize that, have a global perspective, have this nomad perspective, and have this innovation perspective. So that's really it. That's the thrust of it.
Cool. So I think something that would be helpful to understand, perhaps that I feel like is missing a little bit in the white paper is, maybe not appropriate for the white paper, but as we're recruiting residents in this phase, right? And we're asking people to come stake in the project, which means they get discounted rent. Like what's sort of like the living situation, like what's the intended living situation, right? We're saying it's like 40 units, right? Is the sort of like target for build out in Hidden Village. So are you looking for people who are going to be living there like full time? Is this sort of viewable as like some sort of timeshare, working things out, or people are coming and going? Like at least in these earlier phases, as we start rolling this out, like what do you think that's, what are you hoping that it looks like? Or is this literally the thing that you want feedback on before you decide?
So Oprah's conception that we're building off of right now is that eventually the village will be around 200 residents.
Mm-hmm.
And we think approximately 70 to 80% of those will be long-term. And then we'll have 20 to 30% that are more short-term. And that could look like a lot of that short-term stuff, those residents, we're looking at things like residencies, like artist residencies or technology residencies, where people might come for a couple months, but it's in a really focused, supportive environment. The 40-person number that Gear was talking about earlier is what we believe we need to get to in order to have a core where we can understand how well our governance and our models are working and really start building the routines and rituals and practices of our culture. This 40 people initial seed might have dramatically different characteristics than the 200-person village. For instance, my wife is completely struggling because there's no good childcare on the island. And so we're basically like, the facilities here, not just here physically, but in the island support network, makes it so hard to have a family with very young children that although that's one of our target demographics for the larger village, it may or may not be an emphasis on the 40 people. That's something that we're still exploring. And so what I would say is our general philosophy is to build this in an emergent way, which means we are really focused and discovering within ourselves and the people that we talk to, the shared principles, the shared like sort of ways that we enact that through the actual practices that we adopt, and also developing models that people resonate with and that they're ready to commit to. But other than that, it's really who's going to show up and who's going to commit and help start building and participating and living, and then we will see what emerges. So a lot of the questions that we get, which I completely understand, is they say, as people are asking us, they're like, you know, what's the village going to be like? What's the vibe going to be like? Who are the sort of people that are going to be here? And really, we don't 100% know. We know that we have these principles of innovation and regeneration and being family friendly and engaging with the local community, bringing value to the island as a whole, having integration with Thai and figuring out how to do that. We all agree on those principles, but who actually will resonate with that and be willing to step forward and commit now to help build it, and what will their needs be, their actual practical needs, we don't know yet. So that's literally the very next thing. Our focus point now is to start really narrowing this down and understanding that.
Cool. I have a couple questions I want to come back to, but we'll also be opening it up to sort of Q&A from the whole community. But just for time's sake, because we are coming up to the top of the hour, and we'll try to stick to the hour as much as we can. I'd love to invite, I believe, Amy, you're over here. Can I invite you to turn on your audio at least, if you don't want a video necessarily? Hi, Amy.
Thanks, Lily. Hi, everyone.
There you are.
I'm
Awesome.
Amy. This is Jamie Grace. Nick, and together we are Good Sense. And Lily, do you have the slide, or should I?
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys just did a check-in this morning, right? Give me just a second and I'm going to switch over the tabs and get you guys pinned. All right.
Can I present, Lily, or
Do you want to present? Yeah.
I can do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me, let's see. Unfortunately, you're from outside the organization, so I cannot, I think, let you present your screen, but I have your slides up here. So if you just want to take me.
Yeah, if you want to share the slides, great.
Yeah, I've got those up here. So yes, I've got the right slides here. We're bright orange.
Yeah.
We're bright orange. That's
yeah,
us.
just let me know when you want the next slide.
We're bright pink right now, actually. You can't see the humidity around us.
Yeah, Amy, who are you? Where are you? What have you guys been doing? What are the rituals and cycles that we're coming up with for Amagi?
We've been brought in to help implement some of the ideas that Matt Cal has shared from the white paper regarding cultural design and community, and actually living embodied regenerative principles in the governance structure and decision-making processes that will happen at Amagi. So if you we could just cycle through the slides. We've got some pictures that you'll see of some of the work that we've been doing here collectively. And we call it the Luna method because it describes a process that is rhythmic rather than attached to schedules. So we want to emphasize humane decision making. So that is allowing time for listening, being receptive, not only forcing solutions or using control-based like top-down models of community, which are proliferant. And we describe that through the tidal phases and through a body practice and a sense of continuity. So all things in good time. Jamie Grace, Nick?
I was going to pass down the chain. Yeah, so it really comes from the word that's been sort of peppered around the conversation so far, this idea of emergent processes, that not everything is known or our knowledge isn't superimposed upon an end product, that we're really trying to design a process that listens to the people who are engaging with Amagi, and finding ways that governance structures and everything else that needs to go into a village really reflect and celebrate the unique individuals that want to be a part of this. So we've just finished running 3 days of really successful workshops, which the motorbike, which we started with taking everyone out of the head, because there's been so much talk already. It's words, it's text chats, it's everything. And so we started playing with embodiment practices, particularly 5 rhythms. It's a dance practice where we explored the 5 rhythms and how they can apply to sorry, it's a really unnerving echo. All I can hear is myself. Yeah, how the 5 rhythms relates to the design process, but also just us as humans is how we move through life and through space. And that was a really successful first day of like really getting into the body, exploring community in different ways, different somatic practices we were also touched upon were M11 body practices, TRE, and then we had the second day where we sort of moved back up into the head, really just uncovering all of the interesting topics that everyone's bringing from their own backgrounds and their own places. And that was a really rich day of investigation and collection, where we unearthed some really, really fascinating topics that we're really excited to share with the community in due course.
And a little bit of background about us. Nick is a longtime architect and consultant of social architecture practices. So that's often referred to as human-centered design. And so Nick is working a lot on the physical structure and environment of Hidden Valley here, mapping, doing site analysis of all the buildings, and working out how we can transform the site from a place that was initially designed for tourism to facilitate community. Jamie Grace is an artist and performance teacher, creative resource extraordinaire, who is bringing more creativity to every aspect of the design process and the community engagement. And my background is in political philosophy and somatic therapy. So I bring the experiential, the consideration of sensory-based needs, and all of this we capture under the umbrella of the Luna method. And so we talk about the lunar cycle because there are 13 moons in each lunar year, and we want this process, this rhythmic, cyclical, tidal aspect of community, of ritual, to be ongoing, not just to something that ends once everyone moves in. And because it is rhythmic rather than scheduled, it's not compulsory, it's not an obligatory thing that you have to be a part of. It's something that is just like how the farm will be planted according to the moons, and you'll watch the vegetables growing. You're going to see community growing, being harvested, new seeds being propagated again in this organic way through specific practices that we align with the moons. So on a couple slides back, it mentioned that we've been using organizational constellations on the full moon to surface and reveal any hidden dynamics in the community that need to be resolved, and also to design the actual community decision-making process through social consensus. We also talked about how we have been working on a shadow risk statement. So that means looking at all the things that aren't immediately visible. It means asking the question, who is not here and why? And looking at and presencing, not to erase shadow because it's impossible, but by naming and claiming, it diminishes the power that it holds over us when things aren't talked about. So that revolves around dynamics including class, race, immigration, self-mythologizing, grandiosity, the commodification of regenerative community and culture, and how we can make the integration of that not just a disclaimer, but an actual lived practice that is going to be the key to the resilience of this community.
Can I go?
Yes.
My turn. Hi, all you beautiful people and faces in this town hall. Compliments to Lily. What an incredible presenter. I feel so engaged. Good Sense is a magic making machine, and that partly comes from the structure and the flow that we've been practicing together. And we really hope to infuse that in Amagi, both in the physical structures and the flow that's moving through. So you could think of us as structure, infrastructure, social structure. And one of the things that makes us so dynamic as a triad is I'm a dyed-in-the-wool starter. In Greece, they call me Siphonos. And that means like the typhoon that you don't see coming, that just... And Nick is an incredible process person. He can transform, like this literally is a practical idealist in the making. And he can really take the things we harvest. Right now, we're still in the harvesting phase, but transforming them into tangibility. And Amy has the exceptional talent of finishing, which is a really, really special skill, because what gets harvested, what gets produced from the process, can then be taken from good to exceptional. And I've worked with these darling human beings for a while, so we have solid track records, and I know that's that's what we do. That's how we do it. And it's so exciting to bring this forward to a little bit of a larger platform. Mikkel spoke of the World War II after war efforts, and I got my start at one of these actual places that exists in France. It's called Cité des Arts, and it's an invitational artist residency that you can only be invited to, but that is where I got my model of residency in habitation, and that is when you add more creativity to something that's in flow. It does amazing things. So I'm really, really delighted to be here and meet you all, and can't wait to meet you in person. And one of the lunar method tools in the toolkit is a thing called a spin-off. If you've done one, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't done one, please feel free to reach out to me. We can do one virtually, and it's an amazing tool to have for your life. But thinking of it as a cycle and how things move in cycles, it really creates a vortex, a redemoinho, as they say in Brazilian, a shape that only exists in motion, and that's a whirlwind or a whirlpool. So Amagi is a bit of a vortex, a confluence, a trade winds of really good things.
All right, thank you so much, y'all. That was really lovely. Very different, headspace than where we've been with thinking about the numbers and talking to investors. But yeah, I think we've got a lot of different things going into creating this project.
Oh, one more exciting thing that happened today. A big need that Mikkel presents is care for little people, and that is felt all over the island, not just here. So we had a wonderful meeting with Wisdom School and started planting some seeds of potential productive partnership. It's too soon to count any chickens before eggs are hatched, but it was a really exciting meeting today. And the owner was very intrigued and said she'd think about and look into her resources for people who are into early childhood development, for a little place that could actually be on Amagi in combination with some teachers and people that do this specialty. So who knows where that will go, but it's very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy, Jamie, and Nick, right?
Makes sense.
All right, thanks, y'all. So that brings us up to the top of the hour, but I hope those of you who are the most curious will stay on for just another few minutes so that we can do some Q&A and dive into the particulars of the white paper and getting involved. So if you are jumping off now, if you take away nothing else, please keep in mind we are recruiting. The invitation to come live in Amagi, come be part of the community is active. There is so much more than just an idea to jump into, as we've sort of gotten from the updates today. I hope that calls to you. And yeah, so I'll throw a question to Mikkel. Okay, now he's coming. I love how this is like, it makes me think of just like Gandalf and
peers.
Gandalf and Frodo in that like forced perspective shooting they do for Lord of the Rings. You guys have described Hidden Valley.
Alfred really is this much taller than me. Not exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess, nuts and bolts, because Ofer, you asked me when we had a quick little chit chat like a week ago, like, would I come live? Because obviously I love the project, really believe in it and supporting it. But, I come with a family, I come with a spouse who's not such a dreamer. And, can you ground us in some of the, just the financials, like how much money? Because I think there could be people who feel very aligned with the project. I mean, it's like, can I afford to come be part of this project and contribute? But then there would also be other people who are like, I have been looking at villas on Koh Phangan and I've got 30 million baht ready to go. I like you guys, but like, why would I spend it like to live here with these cool people rather than just go have my own space? Like, can you sort of help cover just a bit of just ballpark understanding?
Yeah. Let's try to do that together. What I'm like, we're building it in phases. And right now we're looking for the people who want to create it together with us. So we don't want to come with everything preset. In traditional real estate, There's a developer. He has a small budget to do 3D renders and a presentation to show what is going to be there, and he sells houses off plan. And he sells something very, very specific already. The developer decides everything for the people, and then it's a take it or leave it kind of thing. Here we want the first 40 people to come and be that developer with us. So together we will be creating the product that is best for us. And then that money, I invested the money in the land, but that money that they're going to invest here doesn't go back to repay me for the land. It gets reinvested together with my money, gets reinvested in the land to build not only their house, but also more facilities, because I'm not taking now a profit. I'm a equity holder just like they will be. So that's kind of the freedom, and how much money they have is how much they can invest. So if you have more money, you can invest more and own more equity, and if you have less, then you'll invest less, and that's also fine. We have this model where the more you invest, the less rent you pay, and then if you invest enough, you pay zero rent. And that's very similar. It's like a hybrid, very similar to regular real estate. In regular real estate, it's more 1 or 0, right? It's either you own the house and then you don't pay yourself rent, or you don't own the house and then you pay a full rent amount to a landlord. So this is a thing in the middle. And even if we will get 40 people who don't come with a lot of money, they come with a lot of purchasing power. And then using that, we can come to investors. And, I'm talking as one myself. If I see that there is already a need for it, already in product terms, consumers that are already lined up to pay, and they have committed, let's say, $1,000 each. That's kind of what we're envisioning. $1,000 each to show their commitment that they want to co-design and live there and pay rent. And we build together this financial plan, and we all know what are the rents going to be, and we show it to an investor. It's an easy investment for them. They have it all laid out. They know how much money they're gonna make. I hope that kind of answers the question in a very pragmatic way.
Well, yeah. Let me be more specific to your question, where you're asking how much, while also remaining completely vague. So the advantage of building a village and the advantage of working with people such as Nick is that we're able to think about scale and processes and supply chains in a way that is not being done on the island right now. So the first answer to the question of why, how much compared to if I went and did it myself, or just got bought another place, is the target that I have in my head is it's going to be at least 20% cheaper when we are doing the village scale, because point number one, as Ofer said, we're not developers that are just taking very big margins up front. And point number two, the way that we're going to be building and the entire efficiencies of doing that are going to be substantially cheaper. So even after you add in all of the common amenities and all of the extra stuff, and that makes it amazing to live there, your house is still going to be cheaper. Like the amount of money you need to put in to have 0 rent is still going to be less than going in and buying just a single villa somewhere. So that's my more specific. My more vague is that when we started, Ofer did have numbers for saying like we're going to have this and this and this and this, and I used that to build a model to kind of see what would make to make sure that the numbers work, the dynamics work. But now we're literally all the way on the one end of the spectrum where people are like, yeah, you can just put me in like a single wooden hut that has no AC, just a fan, all the way up to, much more luxurious accommodations. And we're looking at doing very, creative things like buying old Thai houses that are being dismantled and repurposing them and like rebuilding them here. Things that will not only preserve heritage, but make things a lot cheaper as well.
And create less trash in the world.
And create less trash in the world. And, you know, and doing earth building, doing bamboo buildings, doing things that when done correctly, particularly at scale, are substantially less expensive as well. So the exact number, if you want an exact number, come talk to us and say this is what I want, or these are what my and then
and we're developing a calculator.
That's supposed to go up when you guys revamp the website, right? It will come with a calculator to sort of help you to understand your specific situation as per this model.
Right, but even for the calculator, we need to get to this.
Well, the calculator also gives us some data on what people want. So yeah, it's a chicken and egg.
He can do spin-offs with gear. Now he knows the process and he can know exactly what you want.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. It is fun. It's already fun.
Yeah. And do we have any questions from the community? Anyone want to just turn on their video or use the little hand raise thing, drop it into the comments? Oh, yeah. Hand raise. Oh, no, I just raised my own hand. Don't have questions. So while we're waiting for more questions from our very talkative community, what about in terms of exit? Because you obviously go through this in detail in the white paper, but just to give a sort of understanding, right? Because you're not just going to like be able to like sell your house to another buyer the way it is in traditional real estate, but committing and investing to Amagi doesn't have to be a forever thing because life happens, things change, right? What does that look like? Just quick overview.
It's actually better. Yeah, it gives more flexibility than just selling. That's the worst case scenario in the model if we just sell the villas. Do you want to extend on that?
Yeah, so because you're buying equity and because the commons has the whole ownership, then it's actually quite straightforward if you want to leave. Or you not even fully leave if you just need some extra cash, or you just want to do an investment somewhere else, which is you can just sell the equity. And there are, as Oprah was briefly alluding to, there was multiple ways that this can work. The simplest way is that there will be somebody else in the front, could be individuals, could be funds, etc., that will want to go and buy the equity because we've proven that it has value and it has return. And this is the whole, when Gira is talking about the calculator, this is the whole model that I'm putting together, is to do things in a way that lines up the cash flows and the value creation that we're doing step by step to ensure that there's always enough return that it's going to be very attractive to external investors.
Right. So, sorry.
So go ahead.
You buy into the project and you can choose to live there, right? But you don't have to necessarily. You can exit the project and sort of cash out on that. While you're staked in, while you're a part of that project, you can get subsidized, like cheap rent, or perhaps even free rent, depending on sort of like when and what tier at which you came in on, right? Am I loosely understanding that correctly?
Yep.
Awesome. And then Jacob, I saw you turned your camera on. Is that because you'd like to ask a question?
I see Alex has a question.
Yeah, so Alex also wrote a question, which I think we should talk about because it's...
Oh, yes, I see it there. All right, yes. So Alex, and then we'll hand it off to Jacob. Thank you. So,
okay. So Alex says, what are you buying equity in? Okay. So I've talked about this commons aspect. What this will be is that this will be an entity that owns the legal titles to the village and all of the buildings and all of the other stuff. and well as it will have equity in the various villages, in the various businesses in the village. Between the rents and the businesses, this will create cash flow. So that cash flow then goes to this entity, the singular commons entity. And so when you're buying equity, you're buying equity as a participation into that cash flow that is going into that company. And so what the model does is what we do is we get some investment, we start building some things, we start getting cash flows that enables us to do reinvestment and keep building as well. And then we will start saving basically a reserve amount of treasury into the company that we can use to either do emergency things, or even buy out people that would like to sell their equity. That goes to and then they would sell their equity to the commons. And once we have enough of a reserve, then we will distributions to all of the equity holders. So in this way, it's very much like if people know what a REIT is, like a real estate investment trust, it ends up looking relatively similar to that. We're just starting it earlier than most REITs start because we're actually doing the development phase. So his question of who values the price of the shares, well, really, the market values the price of the shares, whatever the people are willing to pay. But because we have those cash flows and we have tangible property, these things have very well-defined amount of value in the general investment community that specializes in real estate investment and other sort of things. And so this basically sets kind of a identified, agreed upon value of what the equity is. If someone wants to come in and pay more, or someone's willing to sell less, that's completely up to them. But because we're holding all these things in the common trust, and we have all the rights to all of the assets, we do have this quite well agreed upon value overall.
What else there?
Does the trust always say cash on hand? Oh, go ahead, Alex.
No, you can answer that. I'm just curious. I'm just sorry, I'm a bit nasal because I have a cold. Because then I also wrote, like, how do you protect from dilution? I was just thinking, is there not a case for another model where, right, you're building your, let's just call it standard real estate company. This company is going to build out the village. It's going to own the village in its entirety. But then people, instead of buying shares, which is more complicated, can work on more of a tokenized model. So you're buying like usage tokens. It doesn't need to go so far down as like blockchain and crypto, but you could still build in a similar manner and then have different use cases for different tokens, whether it's just like return on investment or usage of a property, or even I own a property, but can I sublet it? So I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to understand the model because I didn't quite get it. I tried going through the white paper, but as you said, it's 72 pages, so I didn't get all the way through before this call.
Yeah. So your question,
Everything is possible.
Your question cuts to the greatest source of feedback and conflict over that we are currently facing, which is that different people have different perspectives and different sorts of things that they would like their investments to be, and how to access it, and ways to cash in and out. And the short answer is we see that eventually, as things get mature, we have freedom and flexibility to have a lot of different mechanisms of participating. So some people might, it might look more like a loan with like a sort of fixed thing. Some people might, have this, some of the we're building it. We're actually designing the token, doing a lot of this stuff that you were just talking about. And so the details of that are still kind of, we're exploring that. And so actually it'd be very interesting to talk to you about your perspective and what you're looking for. What we kind of are leaning towards is we're leaning towards a way that right now will be relatively straightforward and protects the village the most, and be and the feedback that we've gotten from the people that are most likely to participate in new things wants this sort of equity model that I was just saying, but it could evolve into other sort of things in the future as well. But these, when I said we're still working out some details, this is what I was referring to.
And I believe that we have 1.5 months planned to work on those details, more or less. So to give you a time span. Yeah.
Check in on subsequent town halls. So thanks so much, Alex, for asking questions. And then I'll pass that on to Jacob. And then hopefully we have time for one more question that came with the registration form before I'll hand it off to, I think, Gear for any closing remarks. Jacob, love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I heard about the project was 6 months ago when I saw you in place. So I feel like you achieved a lot. The project is getting real, and you have a wonderful constellation around you. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm really glad to see. In terms of moving forward and your needs and this communications and how this is landing, and like, I mean, I can just really recommend that while everything is possible, you really design ways for people to participate in clarity. So this is what people need, even if there's different options. You can provide sort of a menu, and things can always be out of the menu, but like this is helpful. And then I was very curious. There was a lot of people passing through this call. Like in there, you have a wide community. So I'm curious around the feedback and like how this is landing with the people, and how people feel motivated or not motivated yet to bring themselves in. I'm like in some ways you play on so many levels at the same time that I feel both like the village businesses are interesting now because they can generate budget in the things that like allows people to bring things in, and that's pretty cool use cases to demonstrate if there is already businesses coming in. And then there is this like the actual builders, the physical part. Like this is also such a beautiful process of really like, you're building your house, you're renovating your house, like this is such a communal process also, the creativity of that. So yeah, I'm curious what kind of really invitations you put out, not for individuals to come and land, but for groups to come. So this sort of residency invitation or this sort of timings can even be aligned with your cycles for people to come in and build in the process, because sometimes I feel yeah,
I think part of this is also on the communication and the social media handling and the ecosystem all over. What we are starting to put in place is much more coordinated information. Just as you say, there's so many things going on. So number one, human coordination, also internally, and then start to kind of have more frequent updates and calendars and invites and events far ahead, to make sure that people also, that we can cut through the noise and find the people that are interested in the specific parts of what we're doing. If that makes sense, Jacob.
Yeah. I mean, just because you said like you all met through the unconferences you organized, so I was like, okay, is there plans for happenings like, yeah. And then the other thing is like, I mean, from all the good examples around, TDF in Portugal always a great case, and so many people just buying their tokens because they believe in the social impact of the project. So it's not even that they need to spend their 2 weeks that they get access with their tokens there, but like first of all, it's like they want to support it, and so you created this beautiful village vision, and so that's why I'm always like put the social impact up high. Really look like where you're supporting the neighborhood, where you're supporting the island also. I mean, even if this is more more things, like this is also where I feel like people enjoy to be part of the strong vision driven model.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just to answer on events on conference, the on conference was a self-organized 5 events that had a lot of people participating. As we are now forming, as I see Amagi kind of spin out of that, we are looking to kind of do on conferences powered by Amagi. Everything has research need and focus needs, so the goal is to get at least one done during this year, but the vision is to have this going on a frequent basis, either as a bigger, also maybe more closer to a pop-up village kind of vibe. I'm looking on some dates if we see that the resources are there. So I think that's the only thing I can say for now in terms of events.
I think ideas were thrown out there for a network school reunion on KP, and also for a Wonderfruit Amagi camp caravan vibe. So gear is pretty maxed out. Ofer and Michaela have to focus on the ground and on the finances, but maybe this is an opportunity for somebody in the community to raise their hand if they want to help organize events, because that is a lovely way to participate. And Charlie just raised his hand. Are you going to host a meetup?
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah, awesome. And so where will that be, Charlie?
Well, I also currently live in Hidden Valley also.
Ah, perfect. So anyone who's on KP and wants to hang out, just get in touch with Charlie and he'll set things up.
Yay.
We are like 30 minutes over, but if we can squeeze one more question in. Someone in the registration form asked about governance, because you explicitly state in the white paper that we are not defining governance. And my personal take on this, I don't know if it was one of the podcast episodes, but I've spoken to one of you guys about Dunbar's number and how even I thought that 200 villagers number was a little bit high, but from my involvement in another project, we'd sort of discuss the idea of having like as little governance as possible, so we can kind of just handle it on the people level. And so Dunbar's number, if for those of you who are not familiar, is this like theoretical cap of 150 people who our brains are sort of evolved to be able to handle. And this is also supported by some of the sort of mapping history, archaeology of the spread of like European villages. They tend to spread out once they get above that number. But yeah, governance, nothing formal yet. Any of you guys want to take on that question?
Well, just on the number of people, we are saying around 200, but we're also saying that around 30% of them will not be permanent. So in terms of the decision making, it's about 70% of the 200 people, and it's actually not 200, it's 195. So you get to Dunbar's number.
at the end. But governance is it's a big topic, and it's something that we have different ideas and methodologies. But it's something that I would like to formulate with the first 40 people to agree with. That would be ideal, and not to have this top bottom approach, but bottom up.
And how would that governance work? Because I'm rereading the question to make sure I get it accurate. Is how would the governance work in terms of the trust? So I think there is, questions about, how that's handled to be trustworthy.
How do they want it to be handled?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about this, especially since I'm the one that decided not to put any governance things in the white paper. First of all, the white paper, I should be clear, is not just for Amagi. The white paper as the model, the Amagi model, we're also presenting it to other developments, other sort of movements that have their own value systems, their own decision-making systems. So one reason why not to put the governance into the white paper is because I didn't want to tie a specific Amagi principles and structure to something that I wanted to show all these various other places. So I'll be clear on that. As far as the number one question that we get when somebody looks at the thing is, what about governance? How does governance? Every single person is asking that's interested. And from this perspective, my personal background comes largely from self-managed organizations. There's various methodologies, like there's sociocracy, holacracy, all sorts of names, but they're all around the same thing, which is how can you have decision-making, and most importantly, conflict resolution that exists with minimal top-down control. And one thing that I can say is the way that you create these sort of organizations that act in this manner is actually very well understood. But the actual structure and the ways that they operate actually turn out quite different. And so one of the other reasons why we are punting right now on the governance answer, and with what Oprah was saying of doing this for this first 40 people, is that again, it's a process. Actually figuring out how do we make all these rules and how do I do all these things is a sort of process that comes with the value system of the people that are involved. And so I'm in discussion with multiple practitioners that have successfully worked with organizations from all the way from startups to like very large corporates to other sorts of collective living situations, about how we can, in this next phase, start to have start to get specificity on these governance questions. And the work of Good Sense and what they're doing with the Lunar model is actually the foundational aspect of how we do governance. Because what they're actually doing is they're incorporating these cultural rhythms of how we actually expose and raise to awareness and understanding of what's actually going on, that then enables us to do the sense making and understand even need to be made. And so there's a lot of specificity here, a lot of things that I haven't even shared with Ofer and Gear and Dora about the people I'm talking with that have a lot of perspective on how to do this, because A, I just haven't had the time, but B, also that's something that I think it's also good to have a little bit of mystery. I think it's good to say to get
our value. We have a value that's transparency, so be careful.
Well, what I say about mystery is not, oh, I have the answer and this is what it's going to be. What I mean by mystery is if we can develop something that is compelling enough for people to step forward and co-create, then having the level of specificity on money and some of these other things is very useful. But then some of these other things that are more emergent, it's like we want people to come into that space of unknowing and like do it together, rather than us being the ones that say this is exactly how it works. Because if we do that, then we're going to always be the ones that are in charge and having to manage everybody else and like hold the village together. So
it's just to finish a little bit off there. It's like it's also a big difference between big protocols dealing with trust on big treasuries, while we have experiments with say 40 people that know each other and live next to each other. It dictates how you can work on this. And thanks to you, Lily, we also get a lot of people reaching out to us, which have been working on these things for years and can help us in sharing their mistakes and learnings and guide us.
Shortcuts.
Yeah.
Gear keeps as a mantra, which is a mantra we definitely need to act on, which is look at what everyone else is doing. So
yeah, I was going to say the same thing. The podcast is so much of us kind of like, there's this whole concept of building in public, but it's also us like learning in public. So on episode 2, we talked to Daniel Espina to get his take on like swarms, sort of as the next iteration of DAOs. Everyone's over DAOs or not, because also we spoke to Sam Delesk from the Traditional Dream Factory in Portugal. And for them, they went with a DAO really tied into like regenerative stuff. They've done a token project. So, we can see how other people have approached this. And on my episode with Rosanna Lopez, she spoke about her experiences at Tamara and their practice of the forum, which is this space to sort of like air out anything, those shadow bits that I'm referring to, Amy and Jamie were referring to. So, I'll just sort of reflect here as I sort of help bring us to a close and hand it off to Gear for final remarks. I think, when we say that we're recruiting builders, like we really mean that, but we have to also be honest with ourselves. We're talking about recruiting a bunch of like nerds who like build in their brains and on their computers. And so it is really great that we have these exercises too of bringing things into the Soma, bringing things, into the real world, because so much of, I think, at least how I think about Amagi is we're really trying to think about, this is all relational in the end, right? This is an invitation to our community, our network, our friends. Like, who do I want to like be my best friend and my neighbor and helping to raise my children, right? So it's not just about understanding like from the top down what we think is going to work by design. It's sort of finding a little bit of that happy marriage between top and bottom. And I think with that, this has been awesome, but we are also like 40 minutes over time, and I want to respect everyone's evening if you're in Thailand. Gear, any closing reflections?
First, thank you, Lily, for guiding us through it. This is our first town hall. We want to set a frequency on doing this as a part of rituals in our community. So we'll take a decision on that very soon. We want your feedback. Everything we do is a draft. Everything will constantly be measured and listened to and improved. Some stuff we will throw out as ugly draft, and some things we polish more, of course, if it's critical and hard to pull back. But thank you, everybody, for participating. It's starting to manifest, and share our podcasts, because that's our strongest community tool at the moment, I believe.
Yeah. And let's keep the conversation going in Telegram, because I assume everyone is in there. If you are not already, that is where we hang out on the day-to-day. So thank you everyone for showing up.
Just one comment on Telegram. It's like Telegram is being used as a very like one-way information channel. We're not necessarily super engaged there. We're not trying to create that energy that maybe some people are missing there, but I hope to also get to that point in the future. This is actually one of those things that other pop-up cities been struggling with as well, like the tools for kind of creating that engagement without creating too much noise is very hard to find. So we'll work on that. But yeah, sorry, Lily, please finish it off.
No, that's all. Yeah, thank you everyone for showing up today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your presence. Ofer, Mikhail, Kier, really lovely to hear all these updates with you guys. And I will be sharing this recording in the Telegram chat. And I'll also drop the link to the white paper in there for anyone who may have lost it recently, along with the podcast and our social accounts, because really just like that engagement for you guys means everything. And that is my toddler announcing that I'm out of time. So with that, thank you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.